Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz Doctor Who Review, episode number 108. I'll eventually get to that section, don't worry about that. So, this one's discussing another new Who series, this one being Series 2, where the Doctor of the series is David Tennant. This is the first of 3 series for him, and he's set a precedent where a Doctor, well, with the exception of the most recent one, where after 3 series, they leave. Not 1, not 2, 3. So, in his first story, The Christmas Invasion, which is noteworthy for a few different things. Number 1, it's the first post-generation story of New Who. Number 2, it is the first Christmas special. Yep, that's why it's called Christmas Invasion. And a lot of the story is simply put just the David Tennant Doctor, where half of it is basically him being asleep, where he's recovering from being regenerated from the previous story, though there is a short story between there. Yep, so yeah, so basically everybody's shocked the fact his face changed, and we have the Christmas decorations throughout this whole story, where they're attacking people on Christmas. And then there's like a spaceship appearing above New York, appearing above London. Of course, Doctor does wake up eventually, and he does put on his outfit after being mostly able to move. Took him a while to move. Eventually, he does put on his very first attire, which does not involve wearing boots. It's basically him wearing a blue suit and sneakers, which probably makes him the first Doctor to wear sneakers. Yes. If you're curious, though, did his successors ever wear sneakers? No. He's the first and only one to do this. It's a blue suit. And, of course, they have a sword fight, which has his hand getting chopped off, which this actually comes to play at the end of the next story of the series. It actually comes back in Doctor Who in the very next series. At the end of it. And then nothing is done with this damn hand until toward the end of Series 4. Yes. So, and by the way, we have the second appearance in New Who of Unit, and they do nothing. This whole story. And there's a mention about this other organization, well, they also Torchwood this episode, but yeah, this whole series says that the Torchwood spinoff. And another spinoff, mind you. We'll get to that. So then Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, orders his spaceship to be destroyed. And Doctor's like, they were leaving. I should have told him, run fast. And then he instantly calls down, followed by his sitting reporter, she looks tired. And then that caused lose her job. Yeah, and there's a whole thing with this in her final appearance of the show. So, then we start off the actual proper series with the first special episode, known as, well, called New Earth. Yep, where the Doctor and, well, Rose, where they proceed to go to the future, to a planet 5 billion years in the future, which is a New Earth, New York. And there's stuff with this hospital here. This also features the return of Lady Cassandra, which I kind of forgot she returned in this story. And she is gone. She's never seen again, though they do bring back this planet in the very next series of the show, which that particular story, the reason for it is the finale. Now, this particular episode, aside from debuting New Earth, it also debuts a creature known as the Face of Bo, which, according to a legend in Doctor Who, that Captain Jack Harkness is going to become the Face of Bo. Yes. For some weird reason, apparently his last message actually leads the finale of this thing. Most of the stories at a hospital. It's a very interesting standalone story. And then comes episode 2 of the series, Tooth and Claw. This episode is notorious for the first mention of the words Torchwood. where the whole story is the Doctor and Rose versus werewolves. Yes, werewolves. Also, encounter with Queen Victoria, which she immediately denies and banished from the country. Also, basically, Rose wears a Union Jack shirt, which apparently the Queen didn't like very much at all. Apparently. But a really interesting story of this one. Yeah, I really kind of like Tooth and Claw. Next up is School Reunion. This one is a cool one. We have this game, this school, this headmaster's Anthony Giles from Buff Vampire Slayer, and the Doctor runs to an old acquaintance. Sarah Jane Smith, making her first appearance in Doctor Who since the Five Doctors. That was the last time she appeared in the show. This one's actually a return to the franchise, played by the same actress, Elizabeth Sladen, who actually aged gracefully since the 1980s. And we also see the return of K9 Mark III, who is down for repairs, and of course she's been hiding him for years. And apparently she's still never married. Yeah, Sarah just never married for some reason. Also, it's revealed because when I get to talk about Hand of Fear, because she gets dropped off one place and it turns out it was actually not the place that they thought they dropped her off at, that plays a role in that. So it's a little monsters this one. Basically, the big thing about this one, and of course they basically have Rose and Sarah Jane, which that was a thing with this one where the Doctor always calls her Sarah. Everyone else calls her Sarah Jane, which is kind of weird. It's the New Who era where they do this, to call her by her first and middle name for some reason. Not sure why, but they do. It is one of the most weirdest things related to the show, and the whole purpose of Return is to basically launch her own spin-off, the Sarah Jane Adventures. And another reason why they brought her back, I think there was a fan poll. I heard it was a fan poll at the time. Voted her the most popular companion of Classic Who. So they brought her back. And for the longest time, she was the only one brought back. And you're thinking, wait, where's the Brigadier? Not here. He never popped up in New Who. Never did. The reason? I don't really know why. If I get a chance to meet Rusty Davies or Stephen Moffat or Chris Chibnall, I'm going to ask this question. Well, actually, more like, I don't think Chris Chibnall basically because I'm going to ask this to either Rusty Davies or Steve Moffat. Why in the world could Nicholas Brandon appear in the series reprising his role as the Brigadier? Like, what was the reason why he couldn't? He actually appeared in the finale, I think it was for season 1 of Sarah Jane Adventures, which was awesome. They brought it back for that story. Same actor. And apparently him and Sarah Jane had sort of a thing for each other at this point in time, which was weird. Though, of course, they later apologized for this by having his daughter appear when the 11th Doctor showed up. Yep. And of course, Pedro spoke the Daleks. Of course, they mentioned, there was this creator, which that does not play a role at the end of Series 4. Yeah, but really fun story, and definitely something worth checking out. But next, some episodes are interesting. Girl in the Fireplace, where the whole thing is basically this girl in the fireplace who apparently is part of the French royal family, and robots are after her from the future. And the reason is because it's revealed at the end of the story that the ship is named after her. That's the reason for it. Yep. Next comes a very interesting two-parter. A very historic two-parter. Known as Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel, which somebody... I do agree with this, basically, this criticism of this two-parter. They put the wrong titles for these episodes. The Age of Steel should have been the title of Part 1 of the story, and the Rise of the Cybermen Part 2. Where I debuted these versions of Cybermen, which is, from what I've heard from Steve Doctor fans, very mixed, this version of the Cybermen. By the way, Mickey had joined the crew with basically, I think it wasn't Tooth and Claw. I think he joined the previous story. He decided to join the crew briefly for this particular adventure. He's here for practically, he's here for the rest of this series. He does pop up in the very next series of the show, and that's the last of him. He does pop up a few more times after this, where the Doctor, Mickey, and Rose end up on an alternate Earth. Now, the way that this government, this version UK, it is very similar to Inferno, except that this is not the people from Inferno, where the UK is referred to as the People's Republic, which was the same name they gave the British government in Inferno. And apparently, get this, Pete Tyler is a high-level billionaire. Jackie Tyler, who is his wife, and get this, their dog is named Rose. These two never had a daughter for some weird reason. And there's also this scientist who wants to live forever. He's a billionaire. And then we have these stomping outside. And I thought this was a really cool effect here. And the Doctor instantly recognizes these people are. It's the Cybermen. Except when you look at these things, I guess if you're a class actor, you feel like, wait, these are the Cybermen? Where's all the squishy stuff? Why is all metal now? Yeah, this new look did not sit well with, apparently, if I heard from old school fans, Doctor Who. They hated this new look. Eventually, they were able to accept this look later on, when I think with Matt Smith was the Doctor. And these Cybermen refer as the old Universe Cyber of Cybers Industries, where the guy became sort of like the cyber leader. Then they get defeated by being dumped into a void at the end of this two-parter. Mickey ends up staying on this Earth because he gets part of resistance. Also, he meets a guy named Ricky, which was another name Doctor actually called back in the first story. And him and the other guy there, it was implied there was a homosexual relationship between two of them, but Mickey wanted nothing with it all. So he ends up staying on that Earth with that story, and then basically this two-parter wrapped up. Then we have the Idiot Lantern. This is basically a story where it involves time traveling to the events of Queen Elizabeth's coronation. Be right back. That's better. Sorry about that. So, where was I? Oh, yes. Okay, so, yeah, it just, not thinking of a story. Next comes another two-parter. This is the second two-part of this one. They pause the pen in the Satan's Pit. This two-parter debuts a brand new recurring alien for Doctor Who, the Ood, which are these creatures who basically born with the brains in their hand and like respiratory stuff. It's really weird. There's also a thing called the Beast. It's a quick two-parter. The Ood do pop occasionally after this. They're very nice aliens. They're not evil. It just, in this story, they're treated as slaves. Yes, still they're later freed. By the way, also, I was going to mention this too. The Nestine actually returned because they popped up in Terror of the Autons. They reappeared in Rose. Forgot to mention they did that. It's a very interesting two-part. I actually like the Impossible Planet, but I can't say the same thing about Love Monsters. Oh boy, this episode. From what I heard, one of the worst Doctor Who episodes of all time. It features a retcon character who apparently witnessed the events of Rose, and this episode is notorious for being one of the very few Dr. Light stories. A Dr. Light story is basically what a doctor plays a brief role in his own show. And I never tend to watch it. I only watch clips of this thing. I can see why this one is bad. And get this, the alien for the story here was, I kid you not, it was designed by a child. Yes, there apparently was this contest to design a new monster for Doctor Who, and this child's drawing won. It's freaking horrible. And it's implied this creature apparently, like, dissolved their creatures, and then, like, the main character's, like, love interest, who's this pretty girl with glasses, she apparently is absorbed with this creature, and the doctor shows up, the creature dies, and then, like, oh, the essence of this woman is actually in this, like, this is kind of weird. So she is basically trapped in this piece of concrete where her whole thing, all she can do is give him basically a service below the belt. That's all she can do. I'm like, you could have left her dead. No, we had to basically make her like this. Or, you know, been better? Find a way to restore her body. It's a good thing these characters never popped up again, because I'm sure Rusty Davies must have been embarrassed by this story. That's why this one's never brought up in anything related to Doctor Who. Yes. Next come is Fear Her. What is Fear Her, you might ask? Whew. This is a story that takes place during 2011. I never watched this episode per se, so it's something I wasn't really interested in watching. This one. But next came a story that I did kind of talk about. I would love to talk about this. This one I'm talking about right now. The 2-part finale for Series 2. Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. And I love this story because, so, the Doctor is basically kind of brought into custody by Torchwood in a building referred to as Torchwood 1. There's also things with experimenting with Jackie Tyler's here in this story too. Mickey returns as well, which we'll get to that. So, and like, yeah, and then we introduce to Yvonne Herman, who basically wears an outfit where she shows off her cleavage. I'm like, damn, this one was hot. Yeah. It's like, ooh, let's be sexy. Yeah, and she's the director of Torchwood 1. Well, she was until she was turned into a Cyberman. Yes. By the way, this actress is currently 58. So you think, though, this story was released in 2006. How old do you think she was? She was 40. And she looks stunning for 40. Yeah, the whole thing is like, we have these ghosts pop up, like, purely random, and then like, ooh, we know a bit further, and apparently someone got married to this ghost, which was interesting, and eventually, oh, no, ghost ship, and eventually, like, oh, this saw effects happening, like, what the heck's going on here? And then eventually, these ghosts are revealed to be freaking Cybermen from the alternate Earth, and this is interesting. They were trapped on the Earth, so then the Doctor asks the cyber leader, whoever the leader is like, how the heck did you get out of alternate Earth? How did you get out of the void? We didn't. Wait, the void was open for us. By the way, there's also a mysterious ball in this other room where Rose tried to use the psychic paper. It doesn't work because she doesn't have the power as a doctor. And then the thing opens, which apparently this thing is Gallifreyan technology. And inside are freaking Daleks! You're like, what the heck? Daleks? And this apparently, like, these are the Koloscaro. Yes. Which, by the way, one survives the story. Actually, they all survive the story. They all disappear. They pop up in the next series, which is interesting. So then we have this really cool thing here where they have the Daleks basically unleashed, and then we have this first time ever in Doctor Who history, and this is something no Doctor Who creator ever thought of this ever in Doctor Who. By the way, Ultra gets involved, and they team with the Cybermen. This like they're fighting them. So then they fight side by side with the Cybermen against the fucking Daleks. And basically, this is referred to as the Battle of Canary Wharf because it's shot in Wales. And it's a massive fight between Cybermen and Daleks firing each other inside this freaking building. Which, by the way, the public does not know anything about this battle at all. It's huge. So, like, yeah, we need to get rid of all these Daleks. So then, basically, the Koloscaro proceed to do an emergency time shift. While all of them disappear, they pop up in the next series. So then, of course, we have where we need to steal the rift. So everybody's brought over, including Jackie, who's brought over, and she ends up hooking up with Pete, and she later gets pregnant. Yeah, she gets pregnant. You're thinking, how? By the way, in case you're curious, though, the actress who played Jackie at the time, I should point out, though, was 40 when the show started. At this point, she was 41. From what I heard, it is possible for a woman to have a child past the age of 40, but it's very painful. Yes. And of course, they had to steal the rift, which they do. And then Rose gets sucked into Ultimate Earth. Mickey, of course, stays on the Earth too. And then, of course, basically, they do follow up with the story at the end of at Journey's End, where the Doctor is like a supernova, and of course they go to Norway, and well, she says goodbye. He says goodbye to Rose. Rose leaves the show after only 2 series, which of course basically you could say, well, you're probably thinking, why did she leave the show? I should point out though, when the show started, she was 23. When she left the show, she was 24. So basically, the kind of the reason why she left the show, because she got offered to do another show called The Secret Diary of a Call Girl. Yep, which is apparently the British equivalent to Sex and the City. Yep, and that's kind of what she did. After only 2 years, that's basically what she did. And she would occasionally return to Doctor Who and guest star appearances. But as for this, by the way, the thing would end. This story would end with a very interesting cliffhanger. At the end of this, yes. Where? You're gonna love this. So, this story here, where after saying goodbye to Rose, he turns around and there's Catherine Tate. What are you saying? What? What? Yeah, this is the thing he does. At the end of this one and Series 3, he does this too. We're like shocked at what he's saying. That this woman has gotten in his TARDIS, referred to only as the Bride. This is the debut of Donna Noble. Yes, this cameo. A future Doctor Who companion who actually became the main companion for Series 4. Yep. And the story will continue over in The Runaway Bride. Yes, which the name itself is a nod to the film The Runaway Bride, starring Richard Gere and let's see it. I can't remember her name. Richard Gere and no, not that one. Here we go. Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. Yes, which is one of my mom's favorite movies. Yep. But this series was well, unlike the first series, which didn't have necessarily a bad story. This one had, well, let me categorize it. Chris Invasion was awesome. New Earth was amazing. Tooth and Claw was really good. Screwy was really good. These first 4 stories, really good. Good start. Going to Fireplace, interesting. Not terrible. Feel like middle of the road. Rise, Seven Age of Steel, excellent 2-parter. Idiot's Lantern, okay. I did like The Impossible Planet, Saint Planet. Love Monster was terrible. Fear Her was something else. But it's a very mixed series, this one. There's more good than bad. I would say the good ones. Chris Invasion, New Earth, Tooth and Claw, School Reunion, Rise Simon, The Age of Steel, The Impossible Planet, The Satan's Pit, Army of Ghosts, and Doomsday. 10 stories right there. 10 excellent stories. You're thinking, wow, that's good. Yeah. Out of a series, I think it had like 14 episodes. Yeah. 14 episodes. There was a couple of So I never saw these ones, the Tardisodes, which apparently serve as prequels to each of the episodes. Which never watch these ones at all. Yeah. Yeah. But you might be thinking, is there any bad ones? Yes. So Garden Fireplace, okay, that's an okay one. Idiot's Lantern, I think it's okay. Love Monsters, terrible. Fear Her, never watched it, so I don't have an opinion on this one. Yep. By the way, this 2-parter, Armored Ghost and Doomsday, this will have a sequel episode on Torchwood Series 1, known as Cyberwoman, which featured the first and only time a Doctor Who monster ever appeared on Torchwood. And after that, never again. It felt like Torchwood was basically its own universe half the time, because, with the exception of whenever they appeared, like the only connection we had to the regular universe was Captain Harness. Captain Harness does not appear in Series 2 at all. There's no appearance by him. We don't see him again in Doctor Who until like the third to last episode of Series 3. And this was another series that aired as part of Marathon on Sci-Fi Channel, which I watched. I recorded everything. The only episodes I didn't watch was Fear Her. The some episodes I did watch on Netflix. That I did. But in the case next season, oh boy. That's going to talk about that one. Yep. When we talk about Series 3, we have a new companion. I think like one new major recurring alien in the show. Yes, and plus the return of another popular thing from classic Doctor Who. What it's going to be, I will discuss that next time. How far I want to talk about New Who? For now, because I'm doing it from memory, if I remember these stories, I'm only going to do it until the end of 10th Doctor. 11th Doctor, don't have many memories of. Basically, I don't have much of remembering what these episodes were about per se, but I'll talk about that one next time. Okay, so that's pretty much a particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. I'm probably gonna watch. Maybe actually, I probably won't have time to watch more episodes tonight because I don't think early in the morning, but I'll probably go ahead and watch Aztecs. I'll probably go ahead and watch Aztecs. I'm definitely gonna watch that. Yep. So I get that done with, but what are you guys' thoughts on Series 2 of the New Who? I point out like 10 episodes of Series 2. Yep. Oh. I almost forgot to bring this up here. So, for Series 1, there wasn't necessarily any bad episodes per se. I mean, I like Rose. And the world was interesting. I do kind of like on Young Undead. Aliens Land was interesting. It just most of it said more stuff. Dalek was awesome. Long Game was interesting, though it mostly was set for the finale. Father's Day, cool story. Anthony Child, Doctor Dances, love this two-parter. Boomtown felt like basically an epilogue of the ones. And the finale was awesome. Yes. So, you can basically thank Russ Davies for 2 series in a row having really good finales. Yep. I'm not going to say the same thing about Series 3 because here's the thing. This actually was the first Doctor Who series to air when I was watching it. Yep. Definitely. Yeah, I actually missed the opening episode when it aired here because for some weird reason this series would start airing here in the summertime. Not sure why. But this is something basic I'll talk about later on. Yeah. Oh, by the way, for Series 2, Rusty Davis wrote the Christmas special and the first 3 stories. School Reunion was done by Toby Walthouse. Stephen Moffat did The Garden Fireplace. Rise Assignment Ages. Oh, here's the thing about this two-part I forgot to mention here. The director, Gareth Harper. This guy previously directed 2 really good serials for Classic Who. The Caves of Arizali, which was voted quite possibly the greatest Doctor Who story of all time, which also happened to be the final story for for Peter Davison, which I love this story. And of course he would come back do more episodes of Classic Who, last being Warriors of Mars. He next would do the Revolution of the Daleks. Yes. The final story of season 25. No, this was 22. Yeah, 22. Yeah, this was a Colin Baker story. Yep. And it's like, oh, by the way, in case you're wondering though, did he direct Army of Ghosts? He did. Which is good because he had experience directing Daleks. He will be back for series 3 and 4. For 3, he directed 2 episodes plus a short. In series 4, he directed 5 episodes in series 4, and he directed a special. Yeah. Oh yeah, he also would do Sarah J. Adventures because I'm sure Elizabeth was very happy to work with the guy. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it, particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and I will see you all possibly tomorrow. Okay? See you.